Okay, Drake is the greatest rapper of all time, period. And everybody needs to just learn to accept it. Here's why. Before I even get in onto the details of this whole thing, I wanna first explain to you who I am and why I'm qualified to speak on this, because I know a lot of people who don't know me that are discovering this video through YouTube probably don't know who I am. And maybe I'm just gonna give you a quick bubble up. First of all, I used to be a rapper named Poverty. I was a signed hip hop artist in 2003. I had the largest rap record deal in history in 2003. It's been broken since, but at the time I was in Billboard magazine for that. I've been in the studio with legends, producers like Jay Dilla, Alchemist. I've toured with some of the biggest artists in the world. I've opened up for Nelly in front of 10, 15,000 people. I've opened up for 50 Cent. I've opened up for Tech Nine. I've done shows on the same ticket with Redman and Method Man, DMX, everything. I've even rocked the stage with Mobb Deep, on stage with Mobb Deep in New York. And I've been around a long time. I'm a lyricist. I spit bars. It's what I do. But for the most part, I understand hip hop. I've been a fan of hip hop. I've not only done it my entire life, listened to it my entire life, know every sort of facet and genre of hip hop, every rapper that you could possibly mention I've heard of. I am a student of hip hop on top of it all. So that being said, I would like to really get into the frustration that I feel that so many people in the hip hop community want to deny Drake what he rightfully deserves, which is that he is the greatest rapper ever. It's irrefutable. And I'm going to get into why. It kind of reminds me of the Tom Brady, Joe Montana problem. And what I mean by that is, if those of you who know, Tom Brady was constantly breaking records, Super Bowls, winning more Super Bowls, shattering every quarterback record. And it was always like, well, yeah, but he's not the GOAT. Yeah, but he's not the GOAT. He's not the GOAT. Joe Montana's the GOAT. Then he gets 4 rings. Yeah, but Joe Montana, he was cool Joe. He's still, he was better, whatever. Then people would throw out Dan Marino, and they would throw out Peyton Manning, and they would throw out all these other quarterbacks, and they would make statistical arguments as to why, even though Brady is winning. And then it was, oh, he's a system guy. It was excuses. It's Bill Belichick. Then he goes on to play for Tampa and wins another Super Bowl. And everybody all of a sudden now finally is accepting that his 7 titles and the fact that he shattered every record worth talking about for quarterback makes him legitimately the best quarterback in history. And people now accept that. Well, Iceman, this new album that Drake just dropped, which is absolutely fire, by the way, and he didn't just drop 1, he dropped 3. He also dropped, I believe the other one was called Habibti. Yeah, Habibti and Maid of Honor. And when you listen to these albums, my favorite new song he has out is Janice, Shut the Fuck Up. It's such a great song. If you haven't heard it, it's incredible. But anyways, when you listen to every aspect of this album, from the bars to the beats to the story to like what he's saying in the poignant messages that he's delivering, and the calling out he's doing on so much fraudulent nonsense in hip hop, and the hate on his light skin and his Judaism and so on and so forth, and the relevance of this album. This album has now shattered every record known to man. So Iceman, Habibti, and Maid of Honor, the massive drop immediately shattered multiple Spotify records in a single day. He became the most streamed artist. Iceman scored the biggest single day streaming debut for an album, and the song Make Them Cry became the biggest single day streaming song ever. Ever. Now, we're going to get into more facts about his records, but I want to I want to get into a few of the nuances of what qualifies a rapper to be the greatest of all time, because I feel like there is some nuance to this. First and foremost, we have to get this out of the way. Lyricism. Lyricism, it comes down to a myriad things. Are you a multiple syllable rhymer? Your metaphors, your similes, your double and triple entendres, your multi-syllabic rhyme scheme. Like, do you rhyme the last 3 to 5 syllables of a sentence, or do you just rhyme the last 2? Are you a storyteller? Like, Slick Rick was very well known for being like a fantastic storyteller. He was great at narrative. Nas, also great at narrative. Like the song Undying Love from Nas was like one of the, probably in my view, one of the best stories ever spit on a microphone. Another one was Immortal Technique, and I'm actually forgetting the name of the song, but it's a legendary song. And if for those of you who know hip hop, I know you know right away what song it is. I can't remember the name of it right now because my brain is just spacing out. But understand that, first of all, one of the biggest myths out there is that he doesn't write. And that's a myth, period. Another thing that makes me qualified on the subject to tell you this is that because I've been in the music industry and for literally 25 years in the hip hop industry, on and off living in California, living in Los Angeles, going back and forth to the East Coast, going to New York, being in studios with legends, working around some people. I have known artists who have worked closely with producers that have produced for Drake. I'm friends with Drake's father. Me and Drake's father talk. You can validate this. You can look at my Instagram. He follows me on IG. We text back and forth. And I can tell you emphatically, because I've been in this industry, that Drake writes his own music. He writes his own lyrics. Now, I'm not saying, and this is where things get nuanced, that he hasn't done songs that other people have written, but it's not that other people are writing his bars per se. And I'm not even saying that hasn't happened. Maybe it has. Maybe on an occasional basis, he took in some rapper. I know at one point somebody told me Vori had written some stuff that Drake used or something, but it's nowhere near the level that people make it. Drake has actually written for other people a bunch of times. Very, very often, actually. He has written probably far more, in fact, not probably, definitely far more for other people than he has ever had used anybody else's stuff. But when we talk about whether or not he writes his own lyrics, we also have to consider the fact Drake is not just a rapper. Drake is a singer. He is an R&B artist as well as a rapper. So there are songs like, for instance, Weeknd wrote some songs that Drake used. And, that's very common in the industry for singers to use good songs that other people have written. That has happened. But even if you were to go to Kanye West, for instance, who has come out multiple times and has stated factually that Drake is one of the best writers he's ever seen. Ever. Kanye's literally done interviews where he said this many, many times. So this constant lie that Drake doesn't write his own lyrics it's insane. It's absolutely insane. But understand that there is a difference between songwriting and rapping. And this is very important because what people don't understand about rap is that you have rappers who spit because they're good at spitting bars, giving you like lyrical heat and whatever. And then you have rappers that are just great at making songs. A good example is I think Tupac wrote some of the best hip hop songs ever. Do I think he was a great rapper from a standpoint of bars and lyrical skill? No, I do not. Not even remotely. I mean, I think he was average at best, but he wrote incredible songs. And I think that people need to understand that those are two completely different art forms when it comes to hip hop. There are people who spit bars and there are people who write songs. Drake, on the other hand, is insane at both. And for those who try to argue Well, that's not true. He doesn't spit bars. You have not been listening. You don't know what you're talking about. I could give you multiple examples. I would play multiple examples if I knew it wouldn't get my channel shut down for copyright violations. But I could show you multiple examples of when Drake is smashing the bar. Like literally like murdering it lyrically. Multiple bars, killing it, multiple metaphors and similes, multiple, punchlines, insane rhyme schemes. I mean, we can go on and on. So he does have bars. From a bar standpoint, the Nas, the Black Thoughts, the Rakims, you could put Drake in those categories. You absolutely can. And I wish I could play the music to prove it, because, it would be nice to be able to do, but I would have to stop it every 2 seconds, because otherwise I'd get copyright violated, and I don't really want to deal with that nonsense. However, I want to talk about flow and cadence. And the reason why this is serious is because this is different than lyrics. Flow and cadence is the pattern with which the rapper raps over the beat. And some rappers are boring. Some rappers have the same flow and cadence, and they just rhyme the same flow and cadence over a beat forever, and every song sounds the same, and that's what makes them not so great. Then you have people that not only switch it up mid-verse, do a bunch of different cadences, but you have people that have innovated cadences. Now, not a lot of people. Eminem is notorious for innovating cadences. Notorious B.I.G., I think he had probably one of the most legendary cadences. He rhymed the way that John Coltrane played the sax on a musical body. And he was insane with it. Another example of inventing cadences is Andre 3000, who doesn't really get a lot of credit for it, but he did. But I would argue that Drake, 1000%, without question, has absolutely invented cadences. He didn't just invent cadences. First of all, every time he puts out a new album, there's another cadence he's doing that I've never heard before. Not from him or anybody else. He does it constantly. And then on top of that, he's just constantly doing it. It's not a matter of he did it a couple times and then people were inspired and that's great. He constantly does it. And he's even doing it now. Even with the new albums that he just dropped, he is doing it again. Okay? So, the other thing that you have to consider when you're considering what makes the GOAT is you have to consider somebody's discography quality and commercial success. And I know a lot of people don't like to bring this stuff up. They don't like to bring this stuff up. But I'm going to get into this because, again, if we're bringing back the Tom Brady, Joe Montana analogy, you could talk about throwing touchdowns. You could talk about how awesome and accurate and deep of a passer a quarterback is. You could talk about capabilities of reading defenses. You could talk about all these things. Ultimately, those would be the semantics of what would make a quarterback great, right? And that is the equivalent in hip hop of talking about lyricism and songwriting and cadence and delivery and all these types of things, right? But commercial success in hip hop is the equivalent of Super Bowl rings. Do you understand? So try to say that Drake has big hits. Maybe some argue, well, he just has great producers, or he's got better beats or whatever. Whatever your excuse is for his commercial success. Oh, well, he's fair skinned, so he has an advantage, whatever that is. I've heard that before. You're doing the same thing as people did with Brady, where he plays he's a system quarterback. It's the system that won him championships, or they cheated, right? Or Bill Belichick was why he won. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. So we're going to get into the commercial success because, for starters, unlike almost anyone you could bring up, including the legends like Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac, who died young, which again wasn't their fault, but they did die young. Drake has had a 17-year career. 17 years of top-notch commercial success, repeated year after year, number one on the charts, over and over and over again, for 17 years. Okay? And you wonder why people hate him and they're trying to take the guy down. So that's for starters. But the other thing that I want to do real quick, that I'm going to do with you guys here, we're going to go over some of these stats. Hey, Margell, what's up, man? Love you too, big guy. We're going to go over some of these stats, and we're going to do this together. Here, let me see. We'll move that there. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and show my screen. Okay, so first things that we're going to do, okay, we're going to go over this commercial success because, to be honest, you really can't beat it. You really can't. So, Spotify streaming records, and this isn't even including the ones that he's breaking right now with the 3 albums that he just dropped. And before I get into this, I also want to bring up Michael Jackson is the only artist in music business history to have number 1, number 2, and number 3 all be his albums. He's the only one to have 3 albums. Sorry, I said that wrong. He's the only one to have 3 albums be 1, 2, and 3 on the top charts. Okay? The only one in history. So think about the significance of that when you think about how Drake dropped a record with his hand in a diamond-studded glove, which is Michael Jackson, the MJ glove, and he drops 3 albums at the same time. We know what's going to happen. They're all going to hit number 1, number 2, and number 3. And then he'll be the only artist in history to do it since Michael Jackson. But now let's get into some of these records. I'm going to zoom in a little more so you guys can even see it a little better. So Spotify and streaming records. He's the first artist to surpass 50 billion Spotify streams. 50 billion streams. He was Spotify's most streamed artist of the 2010s. Over 193 billion on-demand streams across platforms, according to Chartmasters. He's probably cleared 200 now, based on the new album. I don't even think this is updated data. Around 80 to 90 million monthly Spotify listeners. 80 to 90 million people are listening to Drake's music on a month-to-month basis. He's one of the most followed artists on Spotify with 110 million followers. 110 million followers. More Life broke the record for most first-day Spotify streams at release with over 61 million streams in 24 hours. Again, I believe that record is now broken with Iceman. Scorpion became the first album ever to hit 1 billion global streams in 1 week. That'll probably also be shattered with Iceman and his other 2 records. One Dance became one of Spotify's most streamed songs ever, surpassing 2 billion streams. His Billboard records. Most Hot 100 entries ever. 350 songs have charted. 350 Billboard charting songs. All right? I don't want to hear, oh, well, I mean, look, you got your Eminems, you got your Jay-Z's, you got your legends of the game. None of them have had 350 songs chart on the Billboard charts. None of them. He has the most top 10 debuts in Billboard history. The most cumulative weeks in the Billboard Hot 100 top 10. He's tied with Michael Jackson, another MJ record, for the most Hot 100 number ones by a male solo artist at one point. He probably is beating him now. Billboard named him Artist of the Decade. He holds records for most number ones on hot rap songs, most number ones on hot R&B and hip-hop songs, most songs charted simultaneously by one artist. He now also I will state he's got more hit songs than the Beatles. The Beatles. The people that we herald as the gods of music gods. No one's above them. They're untouchable. They're the most elite of all elite. They represent the everything about music success. They are the best. Drake has more hits than the Beatles. I want you to digest that. Put aside your hate and digest that. All right, now we're going to get into touring, which is also a big deal. Touring records, highest grossing hip hop touring artist ever. Over Jay-Z, over Lil Wayne, over Eminem, ever. Okay? The highest grossing tourist hip, we're talking, he's even better than Travis Scott. Better than all of them. Nobody can touch him. He is the highest grossing hip hop artist ever in the history of time. Lifetime touring revenue estimated between $700 to $780 million. It's It's All a Blur tour. God, that's hard to say. It's All a Blur tour became the highest grossing rap tour ever. 320.5 million gross, 1.3 million tickets sold, 80 sold out shows. Billboard box score lists him as the top grossing rapper of all time. He has sold nearly 4 million concert tickets across major tours, album sales, and certifications. Estimated 170 million records sold worldwide. Estimated 193 million equivalent album sales, streaming adjusted. Biggest album views, over 21 million equivalent units. I mean, guys, the guy went double diamond. He went double diamond, okay? Multiple multi-platinum albums, including Take Care, Nothing Was the Same, Views, Scorpion, Certified Lover Boy. Achieved 13 number one albums on Billboard 200. Scorpion had the biggest streaming week ever for an album at release. Again, I think Iceman is breaking that right now. His biggest commercial records include One Dance was one of the most streamed songs in history. God's Plan was diamond certified in the US. Hotline Bling was diamond certified in one of his signature crossover hits. In My Feelings, viral global phenomenon with the Kiki Challenge. Nice for What, multiple week Billboard number one. Forever, massive long-term digital sales success. Sicko Mode, Billboard number one hit. Now, cultural industry records. One of the few rappers ever to fully dominate radio, streaming, touring, pop crossover, hip-hop charts, international markets simultaneously. Helped normalize the modern melodic rap style, streaming first album strategy, surprise drops, playlist era music consumption. Arguably the defining commercial rapper of the streaming era alongside Kanye West and Kendrick Lamar, which we're going to get into that. Because that makes me cringe that that even AI is saying that now. But anyway, let me get back here to talking about what we was going to be talking about here. All right, first of all, so about Kendrick Lamar, and this is the thing that's infuriating. Kendrick Lamar, albeit a very good rapper in terms of technicality, he's phenomenal. But you know what? It's like, he's like, if we're going back to the quarterback comparison, he's like Dan Marino. Kendrick Lamar, and I wouldn't even argue Dan Marino. I would argue more like, I'm trying to think, I would argue more, you know who he is? He's Joe Burrow. That's who Kendrick Lamar is. Saying that Kendrick Lamar is better than Drake is basically saying that Joe Burrow is better than Tom Brady. And that's the most infuriating thing in the world to me. Because, first of all, I know that there's a lot of hate for Drake because of the mass machine that tried to paint him as a pedo, which was complete and utter bullshit. But when people talk about, well, Drake is he's suing, that's so lame, why would you sue? What you guys need to understand, okay, that is beyond frustrating. Drake isn't suing Kendrick Lamar for a diss. This is what everybody says. How are you going to sue somebody for dissing you in hip hop? What a lame. He's not doing that. What happened is that while Kendrick Lamar was dissing him and calling him a pedo wrongfully, because there's zero evidence of that, and even now that it's been pushed on a major scale globally and everyone heard, still no victims came out. Still nobody came out and said, oh my God, Drake took advantage of me in my youth, or nothing. Not one accusation, not one allegation, nothing. And that's when the whole world would have believed them. And they still didn't come out saying that. So that ought to tell you something. But that being said, Kenny made that claim in a diss, against Drake. But where things went real wrong here is that Universal put money behind pushing that narrative through influencers, through YouTubers, through social media pages. They literally launched an assassination, a character assassination attempt on Drake globally by trying to smear him into being a pedo. And a lot of money was spent on it. That is a suable offense, guys. That is a suable offense. It is defamation. It is defaming. They were defaming him. You would be an idiot not to sue a multi-billion-dollar company that spent millions and millions of dollars defaming you on a global scale. You'd be an idiot to not do that and be able to link those things together. So for those of you who think that Drake is lame for suing, study the facts. Take a look at what's really going on under the hood, because you have no idea what you're talking about. Period. That being said, I want to talk about Drake's cultural relevance, because this is another aspect of what makes you the GOAT. I went hiking yesterday. I hike every day. I hike Runyon Canyon. That's why I've been getting shredded and losing weight, looking much better. I hiked Runyon Canyon, and I wanted to hear Drake's new album, so I turned it on, I put the first song on, and I hiked listening to it on my phone on speaker. I like to just have it playing on speaker as I'm walking. I don't like wearing earbuds. And 6 people, not 1, not 2, not 3, not even 5, 6 individuals in a 35-minute hike walked up to me after hearing the music play for just a second. Oh my God, is that Drake's new album? Oh my God, is that his new album? Is that what you're listening to? 4 girls, 2 dudes. Name another artist on the planet. Where that would happen. There isn't one, guys. There is nobody that would happen. Do you understand that? I was walking up a mountain for 35 minutes, walking past random strangers, random people, different. I mean, very, very diverse. You have straight people, you have gay people, you have black people, you have brown people, you have white people, you have women and men, you have all different older people, younger people, a myriad different people on that mountain. And 6 random different types of people inquired instantly, oh my God, are you listening to Drake's new album? Isn't that shit fire? So cool. Such craziness. Oh my God. His, blah, blah, blah. They made some sort of reference to it, or they talked about how they can't wait to get home to listen to it because they heard it dropped. Whatever. 6 people in 35 minutes. I don't even know these people. There is no rapper who is that culturally relevant. Now, when we talk about cultural relevance, to give an example, a lot of people have said Tupac was the greatest rapper of all time because of his cultural relevance. And I would argue that he was one of the most culturally relevant rappers in history. There's no doubt about that. Other people would be, in more recent times, would be Future and Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is definitely culturally relevant. He's also a bar spitter. I think a very underrated bar spitter, but culturally relevant, definitely. One of the most culturally relevant rappers in modern history is Kanye West. And he has repeatedly remained culturally relevant even when he's gone years without releasing music because of many reasons. Everything with his politics and ever since way back when he said George Bush didn't care about black people. For those of you who remember that, I don't know how old you are. But I think it needs to also be said that one of the most culturally relevant rappers in the world today, and has been for 17 years, is Drake. He has earned that title. There is no one in the world right now more relevant to the culture than Drake. Put a stamp on that. So, we've gone over cultural relevance. We've gone over streaming and commercial success, discography. We've gone over lyricism. We've gone over flow and cadence. We've gone over all the different aspects, right? There's a couple things. One is that are left. I'll touch on one, and then we'll get to the most important. And that one is maybe versatility. And I don't think that there's anyone more versatile than Drake. I think he's the most versatile rapper in history. And I think you could listen to his discography and determine that if you have ears. I mean, this guy goes from making a club banger to a super old school rap on like a soulful beat that sounds like something Nas would have put out, 20 years ago. And then the next song is an R&B record, and he's singing like a love song. And then the next song is like some auto-tuned, what do they call it? Like more like a current. Why am I forgetting what it's called? But like one of those sort of like auto-tune, like something music. I can't think of it. Anyway, but Drake does everything. And I think he does everything also at an elite level where he does it far better than anyone else who does it. Prince, who is one of the greatest artists in history, the greatest artist in history, if you ask me, he was like, when he played the guitar, he was a better guitarist than every guitarist, including the best, including Stevie Ray Vaughan, including Eric Clapton, including like some of the best. When he played drums, he was one of the best. When he played bass, he was one of the best. He was one of the only people in history like that. Drake is like that when it comes to hip hop genres. He does every genre, and he does it better than anyone else who does that genre. So versatility is off the charts. But now we're going to get to the final thing. The final thing about what makes somebody the GOAT in hip hop, and that is authenticity. And now here's what I'm going to say about that. This is where Drake has failed for years, is believability. A good example of believability is DMX, 50 Cent. Okay, these are guys that when they get on the mic and talk about robbing you and, fucking you up, everybody knows that shit's true. Or at least you feel it. You can tell this is some real life shit. This is a dude who would really scrape me. You know what I mean? It's believable. Drake has failed on a believable authenticity front for many years. But here's why that changes. It changes because what people need to understand is no, Drake was not raised in the streets. He was not a gangster. He didn't come from a gangster life. Okay? He didn't come from a rich life either. Just because he was in Degrassi High and made a little money as an actor doesn't mean that he came from a rich life. And I heard people say, yeah, but his mom was like in the industry and all. Dude, Drake came from nothing, just like everybody else. But at the end of the day, he wasn't a street thug. He just loved music and he was good at it. But if you listen to his music back then, he wasn't trying to be gangster. If you listen to the music he put out in 2009, 2010, he wasn't trying to be a gangster. He was just a light-skinned pretty boy who made songs for women. And they loved him. And that's what he did. However, and this is where things go, left. The industry is gangster. The industry is gangster. So you could argue, well, a person has to be a gangster when they grow up in a gangster neighborhood. If you say to somebody, what would happen to you if you grew up in the most gangster neighborhood? You would say, well, chances are you'd probably end up becoming a gangster because you would end up having to rise to that level of gangness gangsterness that the people around you have. And that makes sense. Survivability. You have to survive. Okay? Well, we no longer live in a world anymore where it's all about where you're from and where you grew up. The industry, the rap industry, the entire duration that Drake had a career was like one big gangster neighborhood. There are rappers who get murdered for just trying to be rappers. The competition is no joke. It's like one big hood. So you picture a hood with a bunch of poor people all fucking scrambling, selling drugs, trying to take over blocks, fighting each other over, hey man, you can't sell in my territory, right? That's how album sales and hip hop relevance is. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not a game. It's dangerous. Being a rapper in the hip hop game, I wouldn't argue is dangerous anymore now. Well, to a degree, but not really. But during Drake's, first 10 years, it was probably the most dangerous sector of any business to be in America, to be in the rap game. So the point that I'm making is that no, Drake was not a gangster. He did not start off as a gangster. But if you think that he didn't have to rise to become one as he got older to be able to survive the dangers of the hip hop industry, if you think that he was able to stay on top for 15 straight years and that didn't require some level of gangster, that didn't require some level of, building relationships with gangsters, getting surrounded by gangsters, being around dangerous people, if you think that he made it number one in the hip hop industry and held that spot for a decade and a half without having some level of gangster, you are out of your fucking mind. You're not only out of your mind, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. So when he talks about being gangster, well, not being gangster because he still doesn't do that, but when he mentions the hardness, his ability to want to reach out and touch somebody, make no mistake, he could. He could. He's got wolves around him. And he's not lying. And he ain't lying because he wouldn't have made it to the top of the rap game and held the spot for 15 years if he was lying. If he was just paper mache and easy to fuck with, he would have been. He would have been. The gangsters in this industry would have taken his ass out a long time ago, dude. Make no mistake about it. Especially the way he bangs everyone's women. which is really where all the hate really comes from. Anyways, so that's why he says the things he does now and why it's believable and why it's authentic. He's never not been authentic. And when you wrap it up in a little bow tie with that, I don't think it can be argued by anybody that has any brains, common sense, or any knowledge of hip hop that he is the GOAT. He is the GOAT. And you got a lot of like angry, broke white people that love Eminem because he spoke to them and his lyrics reached out to them and blah, blah, blah. And they'll never want to give Drake credit because he's got dark enough skin to not appeal to them. And he doesn't talk about their, being angry and white and popping fentanyl and whatever it is. He doesn't talk about that stuff. So they'll never give him the credit, but that's fine. Those people are always going to be that way. But the vast majority of these people, from the white hipsters that just want to act like Kendrick Lamar is the best because of all of that fake ass black positivity shit that he wears as a costume to sell music that's not real, that Drake exposed on this album, by the way. Get your head out of your ass. Get your head out of your ass. And anybody talking about Drake is a pedo, he's a pedo, you're a fucking hater. Get your head out of your ass. Okay? There's nobody on this planet who probably gets more ass than Drake. And believe me, it's all legal ass, or his ass would have been in prison a long time ago. So anyone who is at this point disputing that he's the GOAT, you look as ridiculous, you look as stupid as you would right now disputing that Tom Brady is not the GOAT. And that's pretty much all I got to say on it.